Okay, this tutorial is going to be on rigging a prop. It's going to be using the null stack that we learned how to do in the other module. And it's going to be a different version of it, but it's going to be essentially the same principle. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out, here's our prop. There's really nothing to it. If you look in the outliner, it's just a piece of geometry. We're just going to call this pencil. So pencil underscore geo. Okay, because it's geometry. I'll move that over to the side. Now, there's no moving parts on this, so it really doesn't need any kind of joints or anything like that. If it did have moving parts, then I might consider putting joints in it. But for this purpose, we're just going to use the geometry and we're going to constrain it to the actual rig itself. I'm going to start out by creating a NURBS primitive. It's going to be a circle. And the circle obviously is going to be very difficult to grab if I keep it this small. So if I go to my inputs for make NURBS circle, there's something called radius here. I'm going to bump that up to 2, see what that looks like. That looks like it's a little bit easier to grab. You could even go, 2.5 if you want to. It's probably a little bit better. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it because I want to have a couple different layers for my props, just like a null stack would. And we're going to get into how that's going to help us. So in my outliner now, I have 2 NURBS circles, and they're exactly the same size. One is right on top of the other. The first one still has the attributes to help it change the radius and all that. But if I go and I pick the second one, I don't have any of that. And I honestly don't know why that happens. When I duplicate it, oh, I know why. Because if I was to say edit, let's see here, not delete, but where's duplicate? There it is, duplicate special. So if I was to go into here and I would say, I think there's something in here, input connections or input graph or one of these two. I'm not sure exactly which one it is, but if you turn on one of these, I think that it would include that. But since these are unchecked, that's probably why it's not coming in. I'm going to say that's my best guess. But in any case, I do want to make this a little bit different, and I don't want to use scale because I want to keep my scale at 1. It's kind of the cleanest way to work. So I'm going to go back to NURBS circle 1, and I'm going to go to my inputs, and I'm going to go to my radius. I'm going to actually bump this one up to 3.5, and as you can see that changed, and that's pretty good for what I need to do. So I'm going to call this pencil NCIL underscore con for control, and since there's 2 of them, I'm going to call this one A because it's the outermost one, and then I'm going to call this one here, we'll just copy this, Control C, Control V, and I'm going to change the A to a B. There. Okay. Now, since this is the child, since it's the next one down, I'm going to make this the child. And I'm middle clicking and I'm dragging it onto the A con. And what that does is it parents it for you. Okay. And again, you could pick the child, and then you could let's undo that. You could pick the child, and then you could pick the parent, and then you can hit the P key, and it'll do the exact same thing. Okay, it's just another way of doing it. So a couple things here. These are blue. Some people might want to change the color of them. Let's go ahead and do that real quick right now. It's pretty simple to do. I'm going to go ahead and click on one. I'm going to hit Control A, and that's going to bring up the attribute editor. If I scroll down and I go to Object Display, and I scroll down again and I go to Drawing Overrides, and I say Enable Overrides, click that on, and I go to Color. This is where I could choose a bunch of different colors that are preset. I'm not sure if, yeah, normally you could double click on this and you get the little color wheel, but I think these are just preset colors. So what I want to do is I'm going to change this, let's say to yellow. Okay, and since it's the inner one, I'm going to keep it kind of a darker yellow. Maybe I'll do it that one, and then for the other one I will pick, there's like a lighter yellow, which I think there is. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, that's fine. We'll just keep it yellow. So you can see that it was changed to yellow here. So I'm going to pick the outer one again, and basically same place, drawing overrides, enable overrides, and then change the color to yellow. Okay, so back to my channel box. If I deselect it, then I have my cons colored yellow. Now, let's go to our outliner again. I'm going to pick the upmost con A, and I'm going to hit Control G. And what that's going to do is it's going to group everything into a group, and I'm going to change the name of that to pencil underscore null, N-U-L, null. And what that is, it basically is a null is a point in space that, here, let me hide this so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So nothing is showing in my display right now, and I'm going to go to create empty group, or null. This is an empty group is also known as a null. So I've created one. If you look at it, here it is. It's in the outliner. It has no visual properties, so I can't select it. Okay, but I can select it in my outliner, and if I hit my translate, it has translate properties. So it's got translate, rotate, and scale properties as well. So you see the translate marquee. You'll also see the rotate and the scale. But you just don't have any visual properties that you could actually select. It doesn't have a shape node attached to it, in other words. So basically that's exactly what a group node is. Okay, so when I grab it, I'm going to unhide these. I'm going to say Control Shift H. When I call it null, that's what it is. It's an empty group. It's something that you cannot select. Basically, it's the top of the hierarchy for this thing. So now what I'm going to do is I want to make sure that this pencil is able to follow this. Right now when I pick any of these cons and I try to translate it, it does not move the pencil. Now I can constrain it to the outermost con, but then the innermost con will not be able to control it. So you want to make sure that whatever you want to be controlled is always parented, or parent constrained in this case, to the child, the innermost child of the control stack. So let me show you why that works. So if I was to pick the parent, let's say, which is the top one, which is the A con, and I pick the pencil, and I go to constraint, and I go to parent constraint option box, maintain offset on, and I hit apply, the A con will control the pencil no problem. I'm going to hit Control Z. But if I pick the B con now does not control it. So you always want to make sure you're constraining to the child. This way, the child controls the prop, but so does the parent. Okay, and I'll show you what that is right now real quick. So let me move all this out of the way, make sure we're undoing this. Okay, so that's all undone. So I'm going to pick the child. Okay, the child is now going to control the pencil. So the B con first, and then the pencil. Maintain offset and hit apply. And we see that the constraint is now there. And if you pick the B con and you translate it, it controls the pencil. Undo that. If I pick the A con also controls the pencil. So this is a properly set up prop. Okay. So in here, we are going to pick this, and we're going to hit Control G again. So pick the null and the geometry, Control G, and this is going to become the pencil group. PENCIL underscore GRP for group. Okay, and so everything is contained under one hierarchy. It's very clean. It's a great way to set things up. If you have multiple props, they'll all line up nicely here, and you'll know that they're all under groups. Under the group is your null, basically your con group, and then you have your geo group as well. So everything's nicely organized. Also, I think, because there's no joints in here, if you have joints, you start getting into a different category when you want to scale something. But if you pick the group and you try to scale this now, I think it'll scale everything. Yes, it does. So if you need to adjust this to your character's size, you can do that. What I recommend is that when you make your prop, you bring your character in, you reference your character in as something called delete. So what I'll do is this. I'll show that to you real quick. So I'm referencing, and you go to the reference module that I did to see how to reference something, so I'm not going to really spend much time on that. But I'll call it del for delete, and I'll reference in, let's see here, Morpheus, characters, Morpheus, rigs, and we want the beta version, and reference it. So give it a second to reference in. It's kind of a big file. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to bring your character in so that you can adjust the scale of your prop. Now, if you do this properly, before you actually hook up the null stack to the pencil, you'll adjust the scale of the pencil to fit your character. Boy, it's going to take a long time. Let me hit pause real quick. Okay, so the character is in, and as you can see, let's just bring the character down. And over. So that the hand is essentially where the pencil is. Pencil is kind of small. It's not horrible, but it's kind of small. So what I probably want to do is, before I hook this up, I would want to go ahead and scale it up. But since we already have it built, technically you could just pick the pencil group, which is what we created, and you can scale that up. Something like that, maybe. You know, just kind of make it oversized. You know, if you don't want to, do it something like that, however you want to do it. But basically, that's how you would do it. And I do recommend, before you create this stack, to make sure that your geometry is to scale on the character. And then once you've done that, you haven't moved your prop or anything, you just brought your character in to make sure that the scale is correct. Go ahead and go to Reference Editor. There's your character, reference, remove reference. Do you undo it? Yes, I do. It removes Morpheus, and I have a clean shot again with nothing in my outliner except for the pencil group. So I know that this is the correct scale. Everything looks good. Everything follows what they need to follow, and I'm pretty much done. Now, the benefits of this is that there's two things that you could do here. This can be constrained to one thing, while this can be constrained to the other. So for instance, if you needed to pass the pencil from one character to the other, I would take this one and I would constrain it to character A, and I would take this one and constrain it to character B. So let's say B passes to A, you animate B's hand coming over to here, and you let go of the constraint, and all of a sudden A takes over and is now holding the pencil. So it's a great way to manage passing off props from one character to the next. Always having a couple different layers. You could even have 3 layers if you wanted to. In addition, you know, if I wanted to have the pencil roll, I would do the beacon. I'd maybe turn it 90 degrees on its side, and I would translate the pencil this way. And here, let me do it real quick. Save a key here, 24. Save a key here. Go back to 1, and then I would pick my beacon and I would start rotating it a couple of different times. You know, you figure out how many times you have to make it roll, but essentially that'd be a great way to get rotation and translation to each have their own unique control. But anyways, it's a couple different ways that you can use these props to your advantage. So there you have it.